You ever watch someone walk into a room and, without saying a word, turn the whole place upside down? That was Celeste Morgan. And let me tell you, her story didn't just rattle a courtroom, it made the whole system look in the mirror and flinch. Picture this. It's just after 9, courtroom 3C, doors swing open, and every neck cranes to get a look at the woman in the orange jumpsuit, wrists and cuffs that shine a little too bright under those ugly fluorescent lights. She doesn't make eye contact, doesn't blink, doesn't even acknowledge the row of officers sitting in the back who, honestly, looked like they'd shown up for a roast, not a trial. That's the kind of silence that makes folks uncomfortable, the kind that asks questions before anyone's opened their mouth. She stands maybe 5'6", 50 years old, black, her hair neat, her expression calm in a way that's almost provocative. She'd been here before, not this courtroom, but you could tell, somewhere just as cold, just as ready to judge. First snickers come from Officer Blake, the kind of guy who thinks his badge is a personality, elbows his buddy Conroy. Here comes Lady Mute, he says, and they all laugh, like that's their little secret. Even the judge, Ralph Marlowe, barely bothers to look up, as if he's annoyed at having his morning disturbed. He calls her by the wrong name, Celine Morgans. Is it? And Celeste doesn't even correct him. She just stands, still in cuffs, quiet as a stone. The bailiff says she's waiving counsel, wants to represent herself, and now the gallery perks up. A chuckle here, a mutter there. How many folks have walked into a courtroom thinking they could talk their way out of jam? But Celeste just says, I'll represent myself, voice low, even, and for a second, it feels like she's not the one on trial at all. You know what I mean? She moves with this patience, like she's waiting for the rest of us to catch up. No drama, no grandstanding. Back row, Thomas Linney's a reporter. Seen more courtrooms than he can count, stops writing, just watches. Something about Celeste throws him. Not scared, not cocky, just waiting. The judge warns her, if this is some performance, it won't end well, but she gives nothing away. The bailiff uncuffs her. She sits at the defense table, palms flat on the wood, like she's there to observe more than defend. The prosecutor, Rachel Weller, gets up, lays out the state's cases. Celeste resisted arrest, disrupted public order, forced the officers to intervene, the usual script. She shows body cam footage. Celeste standing alone. Officer approaches. Sound cuts out right when things start to heat up, then snaps back with Blake shouting, "Put your hands behind your back." Celeste finally speaks, and you could hear a pin drop. "May I ask a question about that video?" she says, and when the prosecutor gives her the go-ahead, Celeste asks, "Why is the audio gone right at the moment when the officer raises his voice?" You see the prosecutor blink, thrown off, mumbles something about a glitch. Celeste just sits back, not pushing, letting the silence stretch. You ever see someone poke a hole in a story without even trying? That's what it felt like. Blake mutters in the back. She probably just read some law books in jail, but the mood's shifting. Thomas, still taking notes, writes, "Too calm. Too sharp. Not your average defendant." The judge tries to keep things moving, but it's clear Celeste's not playing the part they expected. Then she leans forward, cites federal law. Title 18, Section 242 says, "It is a federal offense for anyone acting under color of law to deprive another person of their constitutional rights." That stops everything. Weller tries to brush it off. The judge gets defensive, but Celeste doesn't back down. "But it should at least be a courtroom," she says. Not loud, not angry, just plain truth. She points out the edited video, lack of timestamp, missing chain of custody. If she were a prosecutor, she'd be held in contempt for presenting that. Judge Marlowe says, "You are not a prosecutor," and she answers, "No, I'm a black woman standing alone in your courtroom with 3 white officers behind me and an edited piece of evidence trying to define me. That makes me far more careful than a prosecutor." The room freezes. For the first time, those officers don't look so sure of themselves. Thomas does some digging. No arrest record, no employment history, nothing on Celeste. She's not some random defendant. He can feel it. Celeste, though, never once raises her voice. She lets the courtroom show its true colors, bias, arrogance, all of it out in the open, unfiltered. It's like she's running an experiment, seeing how far they'll go to prove her point. And then the twist, she recognizes a man in uniform near the back. Someone from years earlier, a training gone bad, a complaint that never made the record. He's nervous now, can't meet her gaze. Thomas's phone buzzes. She was part of DOJ intelligence, internal task force last year, pulled off the grid. Suddenly, her composure makes sense. She's not here to win. She's here to watch. The prosecutor, getting desperate, asks for a psychological evaluation, says Celeste's behavior is erratic. Judge grants it, barely looks at her. Celeste stands, voice quiet but slicing the room in half. A woman stands silent in a courtroom where she's laughed at, misnamed, and interrupted, and your response is to question her sanity. You're not threatened by disorderly, threatened by dignity. That's when she drops the bomb, a USB drive, footage from a federal archive, security camera catching the whole arrest from another angle. Prosecutor says she's bluffing, but Celeste just says, I never said I was a civilian. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Court recesses. Everyone leaves except Celeste. She sits, unmoving, but there's a charge in the air. And when they come back, Thomas stands up, got an email from the DOJ. Confirms Celeste is the regional FBI director for Atlanta. The room explodes. Judge tries to have him removed. But before anything else can happen, federal agents walk in, badges out, announce that the Department of Justice is now monitoring all proceedings. Celeste's credentials are real, her investigation sanctioned at the highest level. Now it's the officers and the judge who look like they want to disappear. Celeste stands, finally meets the judge's eyes. I didn't come here to defend myself, she says. I came here to watch what justice looks like when it thinks no one's watching. For the first time, everyone's listening. She explains her arrest wasn't a setup, it was inevitable. She let the system expose itself, handed them the rope, and waited. One by one, the officers get arrested, the judge is suspended, and the gallery is dead silent. No one laughs, no one scoffs, because now they know the real trial wasn't hers, it was theirs. A week later, Celeste stands behind a podium, this time in a federal conference room. No cuffs, just her and the silence she wears like armor. Silence isn't surrender, she says, it's surveillance. She watched, she waited, and when the system exposed itself, she didn't gloat, just nodded, let the world catch up. She visits a middle school, tells a group of kids, people think silence is weakness. They think if you don't shout, you must not have anything to say. But silence isn't surrender, it's watching, waiting, learning. A little girl stands, says her brother's in jail. He was quiet too, was he wrong? Celeste kneels, looks her in the eye, and says, no, he wasn't wrong. Silence isn't wrong. But we have to make them hear it. That's the hard part. Thomas Lynn, the reporter, later writes, power didn't walk out in a suit, it walked out in silence. And he's right. Celeste Morgan showed the world that sometimes the loudest thing you can do is refuse to play by the script, just stand still, let the system expose itself, and wait for the rest to finally listen. So what do you think? Is silence surrender, or is it the sharpest tool in the fight for justice? Drop a comment. Share your thoughts. Does justice always have to be loud to be real? Or is the quiet sometimes what shakes the world awake?